What's up, Estes Park? Hope you all are doing well. In this video, we're going to be breaking down Etude number 1 out of the Portraits in Rhythm book. Make sure to check out the practice videos along with this as well. There's one at full speed and one at 75% speed, so you can kind of listen to how some of this stuff sounds. So in Etude number 1, as you can see, there's no buzz rolls happening throughout the entire duration of this Etude. Which is kind of nice, especially when you're just getting into etudes like this. You really get a focus on the rhythms and especially making these dynamics really clear. So when we're playing concert snare drum, or sometimes it's called orchestral snare drums, the different zones that we play in on the drum are really going to dictate what sort of dynamic is coming across. Yes, we could technically play like fortissimo at the edge, but it's going to sound pretty horrible. It sounds very slappy and it doesn't have a whole lot of body to it. And we can play really quiet towards the center of the drum. But it's still a fairly loud volume because of how much depth is to the sound. So in this first opening passage here, we just have a straight up decrescendo in 16th notes here. So my general playing zone for the fortissimo stuff and forte stuff is just slightly forward of center. We've talked about this a little bit. The center of the drum is the most dead spot on the drum, so it's the most articulate, but you lose a little bit of tone because it's so dead in there. So just slightly out of center is where I'm playing on all this loud stuff. But check out what my sticks do on this first phrase here. So technically we have this decrescendo from fortissimo all the way down to mezzo forte. So I'm essentially moving my zone from almost in the center to about mid-range here. And then I'll play this next phrase at mezzo forte all within this zone here. On that crescendo that happened there towards the end of the phrase, hopefully you were able to see I started to move my zone back into the center there. I'll do that again, starting from the mezzo forte here in measure 3. So especially that last note there, that accented fortissimo, I'm really giving a lot of oomph to that, and I'm almost dead centered in the drum. The very next phrase, we go down to pianissimo, right? So we're going to be on the very edge for this phrase and get that sort of a sound. So out on the very edge, if your snare drum doesn't have the best snare response on the very edge, you can scoot it in a little bit towards around where the crown is on my Remo head right there. Now when we're having these passages that have accents in it, in the rudimental approach, we think of anything that's not accented as like a tap, right? Like a very low height. However, in an orchestral approach, in a concert snare drum approach like an etude like this, the accents are all within the given range of the dynamics. So at this mezzo forte passage back in measure 3, my heights are around like 4 inches or so, and then the accents are just a little bit louder than that. I'm not treating this as a strict accent tap sort of a phrase. So when we get to the second line here, middle of the second line at the pianissimo dynamic, these accents are just going to be slightly higher than what I'm playing. I do want them to stick out of the sound though, so it's going to kind of sound like this. So you saw my accents are really only they're about double the height, but my height in general is pretty low here. So make sure we get that dynamic clarity happening. Okay, these next 6 measures or so, starting on the third line, second measure at the forte here, this is kind of a tricky phrase. The way that I'm sticking this is left, right, left, right, left, right. So this very first note on that measure at the forte is going to be a left hand to try to keep natural sticking here. So if I'm starting from that second measure, check out my sticking in this phrase. So that first forte measure, left, right, left, right, left, right. Then the next measure, right, left, right, left, right, left. And this sticking pattern is going to continue for the next two bars because it's the same thing, only at mezzo forte now, so we've shifted our zone slightly. And then this sticking is going to continue for the next two bars as well. I'm now at the fourth line, first measure starting at the piano, still starting with that left hand. So we can keep this natural sticking happening the entire time. Again, if you were to play just straight up 16th notes, we would let our hands alternate like that. And so wherever that rest is in the measure, we're just omitting that hand. So then we have another decrescendo happening all the way down to triple piano, pianissimo, right? Crazy. So we're already down here. We ended around here in our zone. We're going to have to push the zone all the way out to the edge to get to this next quiet phrase here. Kind of see what I did there. I shifted my zone all the way out to the edge there for the triple piano section. Again, we need these accents to clearly pop out of the sound. So we need our overall heights to be very low so we can have a nice contrast between those things. Again, with the sticking on all of these phrases, I'm using the natural sticking approach, where again, this means if you were to just play straight up 16th notes the whole time, wherever that falls within the pattern, whichever hand falls on that particular rhythm, that's the sticking that you're going to use. So right at the triple piano section, I'm going right, right, left, right, left, right. At the second measure of the fifth line, I'm going right, left, right, right, left, right, and trying to keep this sticking consistent. Now, in the middle of the fifth line there, we start having these accents on all of the downbeats, right? Or like 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and so the right hand is going to be the one that's doing these accents. It's very important that when we're doing these accents that we're treating these strokes as fully rebounded strokes, even though they are at a low height. So I'm still trying to let the stick rebound up here versus stopping the stick low to get these accents to happen. So if I start from the third measure of that fifth line and play this crescendo phrase, I want you to pay attention to my right hand flow as I'm doing this. The right hand is really going to help dictate this crescendo. However, we still are going to let those left hand notes go with the crescendo as well, so everything crescendos. Check out how this looks. I'm starting at the third measure in that fifth line. So you saw, not only am I shifting my zone back into the center here, but I'm also allowing that left hand unaccented note to crescendo as well, so the whole phrase crescendos. But I still want to keep that volume difference between my right and left hands there. Now when we get to that second measure of the sixth line, we're at fortissimo again, so the left hand needs to pop up to the exact same height as the right hand in order for this to sound really cleanly executed. I'm going to start from the third measure of the fifth line again, and listen to how this sounds. Listen to the difference when I get to the fortissimo there. So you should have clearly heard my left hand when arriving at that fortissimo pops up to the same dynamic there, so we can really clearly get this decrescendo to happen again. And this is an exact repetition of what happens on the very first two measures, right? Same rhythm, same dynamic approach with that there. So make sure we're changing our zone as we go down. Okay, this next section is absolutely brutal, especially when you play it up to tempo. If you've tried playing along with my 100% practice speed video on this, this is probably the section that's given you the most problems, because the rhythms themselves are not that tricky. We do have some syncopated, like tied stuff happening in the seventh line, but it's these stinking flams that really make the overall sticking patterns kind of difficult here. So there's a couple different ways that you can kind of break this down. First of all, can you just play these rhythms without the flams? So I'm going to start fourth measure in that sixth line there, right at the mezzo forte. I'm just not going to play the flams. right? Just that little phrase there. I'll play that again. And the interesting thing here is that there's accents written in the first two measures of this phrase, but then everything else is not accented. The flams are not accented. So we need to get that difference as well. Listen to how this sounds without the flams again. Now I'm going to put the flams back in, and then I'm going to explain why I'm choosing the particular sticking that I'm choosing when these flams are in. So check out how this looks. I'll do this nice and slow, again starting from the mezzo forte there. Play it one more time so you can see the sticking that's going on there. So what you probably noticed in the sticking pattern of what I was just doing there is a lot of these phrases are actually left-hand lead. And that's because if you notice, a lot of these flams happen on like E's, especially in that seventh line there. We have a lot of flams on like the E of 1 or the E of 2. And I feel way more comfortable doing a right-handed flam, meaning that my right hand is up, my left hand is low in the middle of this phrase. So when I get to the seventh line, I'm going left, right, left, right, left, right. But I'm putting the flam in there. So that measure looks like this. Check that out again. I'm starting this with my left hand. Left, right, left, right, left, right. This allows all of those flams to be right-handed flams, which again feels way better for me. If you're more comfortable doing left-handed flams, where the left hand is up and the right hand is down, then you can choose to do that and invert the sticking here. But the next measure, so second measure of the seventh line, I'm going left, right, left, right, left, right. Do cha, do cha, do cha, do cha, do cha, do cha. That's how those two bars sound there, starting from the second measure of line 7. Do cha, do cha, do cha, do cha, do cha, do cha. So I'm essentially just going left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Again, because this allows all of these flams to be right-handed here. So check out those two measures, starting from the second measure of line 7 there. And what this actually does is it allows your left hand to essentially do doubles the whole time. It's essentially doing those doubles, but again, I'm trying to stop the stick a little bit lower to prep for those right-hand flams. So that's the sticking that I'm choosing for that phrase. Then the next measure is pretty standard, right, right, left, right. But then the last measure in the seventh line, again, I'm doing the left, right approach to keep all of these flams right-handed. Right? So anytime this phrase of do cha happens, I'm always going left, right, left, right. Now when we get to the 8th line here, and we have like back-to-back flams, you can play these as alternating flams if you want. Like that, so like a right-handed flam, then a left-handed flam. I'm actually just opting to play all of these right-hand lead to try to have consistency of dynamic, especially when I'm doing this decrescendo that happens in the middle of the 8th line there. So check out my sticking on line 8 here. So again, all of these are right-handed flams, and I'm shifting my zone as I do that decrescendo. Watch this again, starting from line 8. And that decrescendo starts on the 4th measure there, so make sure we're not jumping the gun and starting that early. All right, Line 9, we have like the same 4-measure pattern, but 2 different dynamics. Again, we have a do-chat, that sort of phrase, so I'm going left, right, playing all of these flames as right-handed flames. Check out these 4 bars. In the next 4 bars, same phrase, but we have to immediately shift to the edge to get this dynamic contrast. So back to back, those 2 phrases sound like this. Again, I'm keeping the sticking absolutely the same between those 2 things. Okay, 10th line, there's a lot of fast dynamic changes here. We have bop, 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 and then bop, 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 right? For that first measure in 10, 1 E and, 2 E and, 1 and, 2 E and. So in that second measure, that forte only applies to the anda of 1. So if I were to play those 2 measures really slow, you can see the dynamic change here. See what's going on there? Now this is very hard to execute quickly and get these zone changes. So there's also a possibility that you could just keep everything in the same zone and just have the stick heights do the work here. Which is probably going to be a little bit easier to get that to happen there, especially up to tempo. So definitely you could think about keeping that in the center to make that a little bit easier, not have to make those fast changes. Then we have this phrase again, starting at the pianissimo, 3rd measure of line 10. All these right hand accents, or after we have this measure. Then we have this phrase again. So right when I hit line 11, that left hand needs to pop up to match the fortissimo dynamic there. The right hand is flowing with these accents. We're not downstroking it, we're treating it just as an 8 on a hand. Eight on a hand, that crescendo's there, and we allow the left hand to meet that dynamic as well. Then we have this decrescendoed phrase again that we've played many times. And the last 4 measures sound like this. So I hope this video helps you out with this etude. Pay attention to your dynamics. Pay attention to your zones on your drum. Even if you're playing this on the practice pad, it's good to practice this stuff. So hope this helps. I will see you in the next etude video.